Join us on Patreon and become part of our journey to uncover history's untold stories. Your support helps us create in-depth content, bring hidden narratives to life, and keep history alive for everyone. In the long and tragic history of European colonization and imperialism in Africa, a narrative often overlooked is that of the black native traders who leveraged their economic power and strategic acumen to arm their people against European oppression. These traders, often deeply embedded within the complex socio-political structures of pre-colonial African societies, played a critical role in resisting European incursions by acquiring and distributing firearms, fostering strategic alliances, and in some cases, actively engaging in warfare. While history often portrays African societies as passive victims of European imperialism, the reality is far more nuanced. The African continent was home to powerful kingdoms, sophisticated trade networks, and leaders who understood the importance of self-preservation. The black native traders who facilitated the acquisition of weaponry were not simply profiteers. They were strategic actors who recognized that military strength was essential for maintaining sovereignty in an era of increasing European encroachment. Their efforts enabled several African societies to mount formidable resistance against European invaders, delaying colonization and, in some cases, securing temporary victories. This article explores the role of these traders in different regions of Africa, examining their interactions with European merchants, the socio-political context in which they operated, and the impact of their actions on resistance movements. From the Ashanti and Dahomey empires in West Africa to the Zulu kingdom in the south, these traders played a crucial role in shaping the trajectory of African resistance against European domination. The introduction of firearms into African societies dates back to the early encounters between European traders and African kingdoms in the late 15th and early 16th centuries. Portuguese, Dutch, British, and French traders brought firearms as part of a broader trade exchange that included textiles, beads, metal goods, and, tragically, enslaved people. African traders quickly recognized the value of firearms in warfare and state-building, leading to a demand for European weaponry that persisted well into the 19th century. Among the first African states to integrate firearms into their military strategies were the Kingdom of Benin, the Congo Kingdom, and the Ashanti Empire. These states were already engaged in long-standing rivalries and conflicts, making the acquisition of firearms a crucial aspect of their survival and expansion. African traders who had established connections with European merchants facilitated the flow of guns into these kingdoms, ensuring that local rulers could defend their territories and assert dominance over their rivals. One of the most notable examples of this dynamic was the Ashanti Empire, which emerged as a powerful force in West Africa in the 18th and 19th centuries. The Ashanti, under leaders such as Osei Tutu and Asantehene Kwakadua, established a well-organized trade network that allowed them to acquire firearms from European traders, primarily through coastal intermediaries like the Fanti and Efuta peoples. The Ashanti used these weapons effectively in their wars against British colonial forces, delaying full-scale colonization until the late 19th century. Black native traders operated as key intermediaries between European merchants and African rulers. These traders understood the intricacies of both local and foreign markets, allowing them to negotiate favorable trade terms and maintain a steady flow of firearms into their communities. Some traders amassed significant wealth and political influence, enabling them to shape the policies of their respective states. In the Niger Delta, for example, the so-called middlemen traders, such as those from the Efik and Ijaw ethnic groups, played a crucial role in the arms trade. They controlled access to European goods and ensured that weapons reached inland kingdoms, including the Sokoto Caliphate and the Oyo Empire. By monopolizing trade routes, these traders exerted significant influence over regional politics and warfare. Similarly, in East Africa, the Swahili traders, who had long established commercial ties with Arab and Indian merchants, capitalized on the growing demand for firearms. The Omani-controlled coastal cities of Zanzibar and Mombasa became key hubs for arms trading, with weapons flowing into the hands of African leaders such as Tipu Tip, who used them to expand his influence in the Congo region. One of the most significant contributions of black native traders was their role in supporting African resistance movements against European expansion.
These traders not only supplied arms but also provided intelligence, logistical support, and financial backing for military campaigns. During the Anglo-Zulu War of 1879, for example, the Zulu kingdom, under King Cetshwayo, benefited from traders who had helped acquire firearms over the years. Though the Zulu military relied primarily on traditional weapons such as the assegai spear and the ikwa short stabbing spear, firearms played an essential role in their initial successes against British forces, particularly at the Battle of Isandlwana. In the Sudan, traders associated with the Mahdiist movement facilitated the flow of arms to the followers of Muhammad Ahmad, who led a successful rebellion against Anglo-Egyptian rule in the 1880s. The Mahdiist forces, armed with European rifles obtained through trade networks, managed to defeat well-equipped colonial armies and establish an independent state that lasted until the early 20th century. Similarly, in West Africa, Samori Touré, the leader of the Wassoulou Empire, relied heavily on a network of traders to acquire weapons from European sources. Touré's forces fought a prolonged war against French colonial forces, utilizing modern rifles and artillery acquired through trade with coastal merchants. As African resistance movements intensified, European colonial powers sought to curtail the flow of firearms into the continent. By the late 19th century, international treaties such as the Brussels Conference Act of 1890 sought to restrict the arms trade, particularly in regions where African resistance remained strong. However, traders continued to find ways to circumvent these restrictions, often smuggling weapons through clandestine routes. Despite European efforts to control the trade, African traders remained resourceful. They established alternative networks, engaged in covert transactions, and even exploited rivalries between European powers to secure arms. This adaptability ensured that African resistance movements continued to challenge colonial rule well into the 20th century. The black native traders who armed their people against European oppression played a pivotal role in shaping Africa's history. Far from being passive recipients of European goods, these traders were active participants in the struggle for self-determination. Their efforts enabled African societies to resist colonial incursions, assert their sovereignty, and in some cases, achieve temporary victories against formidable European armies. While the ultimate outcome of colonial expansion was the subjugation of most African territories by the early 20th century, the legacy of these traders endures. Their resilience, ingenuity, and strategic acumen serve as a testament to the complex and dynamic nature of African history. By revisiting their stories, we gain a deeper appreciation of the diverse and multifaceted ways in which Africans resisted oppression and fought to preserve their independence.